President Trump has announced that he wants to limit credit card interest rates to 10% for 1 year, starting on January 20th. In today's video, let's discuss, is this really going to happen or is this all just talk? And what would the pros and cons be? So let's begin by going to the source. Here's what President Trump posted on the evening of January 9th. So he wrote, "Please be informed that we will no longer let the American public be ripped off by credit card companies that are charging interest rates of 20 to 30% and even more. Effective January 20th, 2026, I, as President of the United States, am calling for a 1-year cap on credit card interest rates of 10%. Okay, so notice that President Trump never said that he's going to do it. President Trump said that he's calling for a 1-year cap. So in other words, he's not making any promises. I mean, if you think about it, anyone can call for anything. Calling for simply means that he's requesting something. Like I can call for anything too. I can call for world peace. I can call for the end of world hunger. Like, is anything going to result from my request? Probably not. Now, President Trump is saying that he wants to limit the interest rate on credit cards in order to help consumers and Americans that are in credit card debt. And I want to show you how big of an impact that this would have. First, I want to show you this chart showing how much credit card debt Americans are in. I mean, just take a look at the chart. It is wild. Americans are in more credit card debts than ever before. So did you know that half of American credit card holders do not pay their full balance every month, meaning that they're subject to those high interest rate charges? Credit card debt in the US has hit a record high of $1.2 trillion. And the average APR on a credit card right now in early 2026 is about 22%. So if credit card interest rates were capped at 10%, then it would save Americans $144 billion in interest payments. And that would mean that Americans would have an extra $144 billion a year that we could use on paying down debt, daily expenditures, or discretionary income. I mean, that's a lot of money. That sounds great, right? But just think about it practically. Like, who's going to be on the other end of that $144 billion? Okay, so here's how it works. When you pay interest on a credit card balance, that interest goes primarily to the bank that issued your card, not the credit card network, not like Visa or MasterCard. So when you pay interest on your credit card, it's going to JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, Bank of America, etc. And of course, as I stated, it's a lot of money. Now, do you think those banks are thrilled about this idea? And I would say no, because it's going to hurt their income and their profits. And of course, many of the banks have politicians in their pockets. And with that being said, that brings us to a very important question. Can President Trump issue an executive order to limit credit card interest rates to 10%? And the answer is no. I mean, he could issue an executive order, but it wouldn't be legally enforceable. And then the banks would, they take it to court and they'd have it overturned. Therefore, in order to regulate private lending rates, Congress has to vote on it, approve it, and pass it into law. And at the time of making this video, President Trump has not issued an executive order, although there's some talks of him attempting to do so. Okay, but I just want you to know that Senator Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have already attempted to limit credit card interest rates through Congress. So this is nothing new. 11 months ago, Senator Bernie Sanders released a plan that would cap credit card interest rates to 10% for 5 years. And of course, that never materialized. And Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez introduced a bill in March of 2025, capping credit card interest rates at 10%. However, it failed to gain traction in Congress. Okay, so President Trump is in talks with certain members of Congress to potentially create legislation to get this voted on. Senator Marshall said that he discussed the situation with President Trump on Friday night. Senator Marshall said, and I quote, "This effort is to lower costs for American families and to rein in greedy credit card companies who have been ripping off hardworking Americans for too long." So listen, I just want you to understand this very clearly, that right now, all this talk is just a concept, just like the $2,000 Doge stimulus check or the $2,000 tariff dividends. So I would say, honestly speaking, don't get too excited. Now, I want to show you how the banks are reacting to all of this. And this is coming from the Bank Policy Institute. They say We share the president's goal of helping Americans access more affordable credits. At the same time, evidence shows that a 10% interest rate cap would reduce credit availability and be devastating for millions of American families and small businesses who rely on and value their credit cards. My opinion is that although that may be true to some extent, I believe, I'm just talking honestly, I believe that it just all boils down to the money. It's about the income, it's about the profits for the banks. That's all that it is. So of course they're gonna put out a statement like that to sugarcoat the whole situation. Now, I do want to point this out, and this may disappoint a lot of people because I know that this topic's like so sensitive. It's important to so many people. So let's just say that this does actually happen, a 10% limit, a 10% cap. That means that the banks will make much less money, right? And of course, they're going to try to make up for it, right? What are they going to do? They're going to find other ways to make money off us, and they're also going to try to save on costs. So did you know that it's not the credit card companies that pay you the credit card rewards? Like I'm talking about the cashback, the miles, the points. It's not them, it's the banks. So your credit card rewards are not coming from Visa, they're not coming from MasterCard. They're being funded by JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, etc., the issuing bank. So that rewards money is coming out of the pockets of the banks because, well, they're making so much money off these credit cards with their interchange fees and their interest charges. So if the banks make less money on credit cards, then those credit card rewards will either be greatly reduced or discontinued. So that's something to think about because, again, I know that's so important to so many people. And here's some of the other potential downsides of a 10% cap on credit card interest rates. So this is basically what the banks are arguing for, not doing this. This is essentially, I just want to share with you what the banks are saying. Okay, so for people that have a lower credit score or are considered higher risk, they end up with the higher interest rates, right? Now, if the banks are capped at charging a rate of 10%, then they're saying that fewer people would be approved for a credit card. They're saying that people would have lower credit limits, and many people that are considered riskier, who would normally be charged higher than 10%, would have their credit cards canceled. And I just want to say that, well, personally, I've had one of my credit cards canceled. Like, it wasn't due to being risky. It was actually due to inactivity. But what I'm saying is, yes, they can cancel your credit cards. And then to make up for lost revenue, like, what the banks are going to do. They're just going to increase their fees, annual fees, late fees, balance transfer fees, etc. Okay, now putting all this together, where does this leave us? The Trump proposal for a 10% interest rate cap, of course, is going to be a dramatic and headline-grabbing idea, right? But as I told you, it faces serious hurdles. Congress must pass a law. There have been multiple attempts in Congress in recent years, but none of them have succeeded at the federal level. So some political observers, they believe that Trump is just trying to make a political statement to rally support ahead of the midterm elections. And others believe that President Trump is genuinely trying to lay the groundwork for future legislation to actually have this go through. But you can let me know what you think is going on here. That's the situation. If there's any new developments on this, I'll be sure to let you know. Please subscribe. Thank you for the support, and I wish you a very nice day. Take care.